Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2096. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm in Los Angeles, California, with a very special guest by the name of Hans Bääth. Hans, welcome to Cars Yeah. Do you have it in gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Hi, Mark. Left foot is on the floor, but as soon as you want, I will lift it, or maybe push it to the left.
All right, absolutely. We're going to have some fun today talking about a very, very cool ride that Hans is over here from Sweden presenting to the U.S. audience today. But before we get there, what's one little thing about you, Hans, that maybe most people may not know about?
Might be a lot. First thing that came to mind when you asked this question is that most people, I don't think, know that I was or is a huge rotary engine enthusiast. I disassembled the first RX3 12A engine back home in my dad's garage many, many years ago.
Whoa. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. You know, that rotary engine, Wankel engine, when that thing came out, it was like, what are they thinking? But my mom had the first generation of those cars. Pretty cool cars. I mean, pretty incredible engineering. I'm kind of sad, or I was sad when it kind of went away.
Yeah. And if you look at the time in like early 70s, if you study that period, all the big manufacturers had a license for a rotary engine. Even GM and Ford did. And I actually bought some books at that point of time from American car journalists. And they were so adamant that the rotary engine would take over the world. So the big problem for the manufacturers would be what to do with the reciprocating engine factories. GM went to the Geneva show with a Corvette with a huge rotary engine, but no, didn't happen, as you say. But cool engines.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, I love it. Well, let me give you a proper introduction. We're going to talk about a car that you've got over here in the U.S. right now. It's going to make a debut this summer, but it's making a debut today as well. So here we go. Hans Bääth is the general manager of Cyan Racing. Cyan is formerly known as Polestar, who started life as a Swedish racing team. Their brand success led to its acquisition by Volvo in 2015. In the hands of Volvo, their racing engineers were liberated to do what they know best. And today, Cyan is once again a fully independent organization, continuing to dominate the world touring car scene on racetracks around the world. Their development of the Volvo P1800 Cyan resto-mod has incorporated the same talents needed to design, build, and develop their world title-winning race and road cars. Each Volvo P1800 Cyan is built to the client's exact specifications. The car design allows to be tailored into anything from lightweight, high-performance cafe racer to a grand tourer. You can see their Volvo P1800 Cyan at the Quail, a motorsports gathering taking place Friday, August 19th during Pebble Beach Car Week. Cannot wait to see this thing. We'll be back in just a moment, but first a word from our sponsor, so give them a little love. And we'll be right back. My friends at Covercraft offer you 10 different options. That's right, 10 for your vehicle's protection. You can choose from Weather Shield HP, HD, Sunbrella, Ultratect, Reflect, Form Fit, Custom View Shield, and their newest 5-layer all-climate cover, 3-layer moderate climate cover, and a 5-layer indoor option. You have all sorts of ways to protect your car. All of these are custom tailored by Covercraft's talented craftspeople. It's the form and fit with the quality to attention to detail that's been their standard since 1965. Surface protection is the best way to preserve the investment you've made in your vehicles. It's what I do. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. I have a Covercraft cover for every one of my vehicles, and I've got a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, they'll give you 10% off your order, plus you get free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping. Just use the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. After listening to Cars Yeah, a buddy of mine ordered his custom Zengen oil analysis kit, and boy, is he glad he did. He thought his 10-year-old car was doing just fine. However, when he got his online Zengen score, the inner workings of his car engine told a very different story. His score was a 5 out of 10, and he learned a major repair was imminent. He shared his report with his mechanic and learned, well, he was facing a $7,000 rebuild. Maybe it's time to sell. Wouldn't you like to know what's lurking under your hood? At only $39.95 and free shipping both ways, your Zengen oil analysis kit is less than an oil change. It takes less than 5 minutes to collect your vehicle's sample and mail it back to their world-class labs. In only 5 days, Zengen sends you a link via email to your very own Zengen score. Your custom report measures 30 different data points, including contamination, lubricants, metals, additives, and a whole lot more. My buddy was so glad to learn his score and chose the option before a costly rebuild was needed. Go to ZengenScore.com and use the code CARSYEAH20 and get 20% off your first 2 kits. Boom! What a deal. Preventative knowledge and maintenance could save you thousands, and you'll rest better at night knowing that your engine's condition is A-OK or maybe needs some help. And remember, Zengen also makes a spectacular Father's Day gift for Dad, and Father's Day is coming up soon. That's ZengenScore.com and use the code CARSYEAH20 for 20% off today. Zengen, you'll rest better at night. Most people don't think about their collector car insurance until their annual premium becomes due. Well, why wait and see if there are better options for your beloved rides? I didn't. Did you know if you change carriers before your policy runs out, your insurance company has to refund you the unearned portion of your policy premium? I did my homework, I shopped around, and I found American Collectors Insurance. They've been protecting collector vehicles since 1976. I encourage you to call my friends at American Collectors Insurance. Ask them about their agreed value policy. And if your collector vehicle is on your regular auto policy, you will be shocked at the savings, not to mention the assurance should something bad happen to your ride, that you'll get what your vehicle is actually worth. Give them a call today for a quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of Mark Green at Cars Yeah, American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. Automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. Give them a call today. So Hans, we are back. So we're going to dive a little deeper into the corner. You're from the racing world. You know what that's all about. I would love for you to give me first a little bit of history about you, your involvement with Cyan Racing, and then we're going to dive into this P1800 because what you guys have done with this classic design is oh so cool. So let's take a little ride back into your history, and then you bring it forward to what you're doing today.
All right. Yeah, I think you introduced us very well. The company started in 1996 to race with the Volvo 850 in the Swedish Touring Car Championship. It was a huge success in the British Touring Car Championship, BTCC. People might remember the 855 wagon. That was a bit spectacular race car. But the 850 went into becoming a very successful car, and its follower, the S40, won the BTCC and also some great races like the Bääth 1000 in Australia. So that's how the company started, as a pure racing team, racing with cars built by other companies. So the first cars were built by Tom Walkinshaw Racing in the UK. And then the company emerged into building our own race cars. So somewhere, perhaps 10 years later, we built our first race car from scratch, the Volvo C30. That was a car that we took our first step into the world touring car scene as well with. And it was also the inspiration for our first road-going car, which was a concept car based on the C30. A car that we brought here, I think it's more or less exactly 11 years when we talk. We brought it over here to the US, and it became kind of famous. It was really important for us, for the brand. It was Cyan Blue, or at the time it was obviously Polestar Blue, or as Jay Lemlo put it, it was Swedish Racing Green. Yeah. So whatever. So that car gave us the opportunity to come out sort of on the consumer scene. And to finance our motorsport, we started to develop a performance program for Volvo cars that is still existing today, but in the hands of Volvo. The vision for Christian Dahl, the owner of the company, has always been to become world champion. And I think that was the star for us all. That was what we're aiming for, even though maybe we didn't believe that it would happen.
So one of my first questions for you, Hans, today was going to be why the P1800? But it's a silly question in my mind because when Volvo came out with that vehicle, I think it raised a lot of eyebrows in its design and its coolness because Volvo was thought of as a very square, boxy, I won't say boring, but kind of plain car, safe car for families. And then the P1800 came out. And I love the fact that you guys are bringing this back to life. And we're seeing this with a lot of manufacturers and kind of reimagined vehicles and things like that. So let's start with your decision, though, on the P1800. And then I really want you to take a deep dive into the vehicle highlights, because what you've done with this thing, it makes me want to go get one. It's just so cool. So let's start with the heritage of the P1800, and then we can talk about the vehicle highlights and specifications, because you guys have turned this into something very special.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, the decision to build something came out of what I was talking about, our first world title. We felt that we had spent more than 20 years racing Volvos. There had been a lot of people before us doing that, even the P1800. The P1800 has been at the Daytona, for instance, in the 60s. But so we wanted to create a road car that could sort of celebrate that world title, that first manufacturer title. And we were looking back at Volvo, and even though if you ask a car designer, he would say that the 140, the first really boxy Volvo, that is a very clean design. So that's your pick. But we felt that you mentioned Volvo is almost boring, and Volvo has done a few things to achieve that kind of brand image. But if you look at the P1800, it's absolutely the most iconic Volvo of them all. It was designed, it's a Swedish-Italian design. The car came out in 61, the same year as the E-Type. I think 1 year before the Shelby Cobra and 2 years before the 911. So it came out in a fantastic time in the 60s, the golden 60s. And unfortunately, or how you want to put it, it really never got any continuation. It was there up until 1973, and it also had the wagon version, the ES, the 2 last years. But after that, nothing came out really. So we felt that, okay, all these cars, the E-Type and the Shelby and obviously the 911, they have had so much sort of people taking care of them and making continuations and all kinds of versions of them. And we felt that, why do not we do that with the P1800? So that's the start. That's the decision. We wanted to celebrate the world title, and we wanted to make a mark. And I would be lying if I said that Porsche Singer vehicles has not been our inspiration, because I think they've opened up a totally new market. There are so many cars coming now, but resto-mods have been there for forever, I think, since the first car. But Singer made this into something new, very inspiring. So thanks to them. But obviously, the P1800 Cyan is not to compare with the Porsche Singer. I think these people tend to call this resto-mods, but I think if we go a few more years into the future, there will be more distinct names for different categories within this. Because the P1800 is a very antique car. It's designed in the 50s based on the Volvo Amazon, the 122. And if you want to build a performance vehicle out of that, there is not much you can use.
Exactly. Let's start with the heart of the beast here, because what you've done is you guys have a racing heritage. And I love the fact that you started there with a race-proven, I believe it's a 420 horsepower, 2-liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Whoa.
Yeah, it's a lot. And that engine, we went through all the engines in sort of within Volvo that we could think of using. There is the old red block. There is obviously the B18 that was standard in the P1800. You have the 5-cylinder engines that you remember from the T5Rs and that we were racing for many years. You have the V8 that you find in the S80 and the XC90 here, with an engine that we raced in the Australian Championship, in the V8 Supercars Championship for a couple of years. But the 2-liter VEA engine that you find in every new Volvo today, that is one of the most solid, mechanically solid engines in the market. We built it in so many different versions. We started racing with it in 2011, and it came into production 2014. So we've been with that engine since its birth, really, within Volvo. And we put a lap record with it on the Nürburgring with a 1.6-liter 530 horsepower version.
Wow.
And that's a lot from a 4-cylinder turbo. Yeah. So when it arrives and we won the world title with that engine. So when it sits in the P1800, it shares the same block and cylinder head as you would get if you walk into a Volvo dealer today and buy the car. But obviously, a lot of the parts are bespoke in this engine. So, cool. and also talking about when you see the engine, we try to make it, break away all that plastic that you find on a new car, and we try to work on it so you really see a 16-valve two-cam engine. And it's a turbo, but visually we've hidden the turbo quite down under the headers, just to hide away a little bit. But that is also in the driving characteristics of the engine. So it's been mapped to actually have a very linear torque and horsepower increasing in linear with the revs. So it doesn't have that turbo boost as you have on a modern engine. You really have to work the engine. But at 7,700, your smile is just super big.
Yeah, no kidding. I can only imagine. And when you go to what you've wrapped this power plant with, you've got a steel chassis, but carbon fiber body. So this thing is light. I think 2,180 pounds. Holy cow.
Yeah, that's correct. And for a Swede, it's under 1,000 kilos. So it's 990. That's very important. So 990 kilos and 420 horsepower, that moves. And it's a little bit lighter than the car was from the factory. The car came from factory at a little bit over 1,000 kilos. Yeah, so we use some of the original steel in the car, but we reinforce that. We triangulate the weak spots in the chassis. There's a lot of new, more modern kind of steel in it. So that's sort of to create a higher rigidity of the chassis. And then we put, with a high precision method, like a few large parts of carbon fiber to join that together with the steel chassis, creating a very structurally rigid platform for the engine and for the suspension.
Yeah, it's cool. And the suspension, speaking of which, fully adjustable independent suspension, right?
Yeah. So it's double wishbones front and rear. It's originally the car has a live axle. It has a steering box. It's kind of crappy to drive. I don't want to say that maybe, but if you think of cars from the 60s, you would want them to be really lovely to drive, but sometimes they are a little bit underwhelming when you get behind the wheel.
Yes.
But what we've tried to do, and I think we've come quite far, that is to keep that feeling of the 60s, that direct connection with the road, nothing that disturbs you between you and the tires and the tarmac. So there is no ABS, there is no traction control. There is a little support with the power steering, actually just to be there to handle the bigger tires, because modern tires today actually need some power steering.
Right.
But we try to take away everything that filters the driving direct connection to the road.
Yeah.
So the car has fully independent adjustable suspension, Öhlins shock absorbers with Cyan's own valving. We've been working with Öhlins forever, but we do some of the internals ourselves. There is adjustable anti-roll bars are adjustable. Brake balance is adjustable. Obviously, the height of the car is adjustable, and this is to ensure that we can tune the car to each client's preferences. The car that we have here now is perfectly suits the canyon roads, north of Malibu or Angeles Crest and these kind of roads. It's not the fastest version of the car. The car can be faster on different tires if you want to take it for a racetrack, but it can also be much more comfortable if you just want to have it to, buy ice cream with.
Ice cream, cars and coffee. Yeah, and you've teamed up with some really cool people, Recaro, Pirelli, AP Racing. And the fact that these are hand-built in Sweden and anyone can order one of these any way they like. There's a lot of different unique options you're providing here for very unique driving experiences, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah. I mean, the driving experience can be tuned in so many ways. We have a couple of different differentials. We can change the ratio of the steering and the input of the power steering, obviously shock absorbers and the things I was talking about. But then you have everything else. You have the interior that is exactly the choice of the client, and also paint. How you want to? I mean, one of the cars that we should bring here, but it was difficult, is the California white version that we have back in Sweden. Volvo had a color called California white. So obviously that one would suit the roads here. So it's up to the client really to tune the car. If it's a cafe racer, if it's a grand tourer, that sort of all of that is doable within the concept.
Well, it's marvelous, and I love this. This whole thing that's going on, as we mentioned earlier, I guess we could say it maybe started by Rob Dickinson and Singer, but there's been some others that have done this, has really exploded, bringing back so many cool cars. But what consumers seem to want today is, and you mentioned it, when you dream of owning an old car and you finally save up your money and you buy one and you get in, you drive it and you kind of go, yuck, that wasn't that much fun. You guys are creating something that brings back that heritage, that flair, the design, but makes it fun and drivable. So I think it's really cool. Can people order cars now? You're producing cars for people now?
Yeah, we are. We have 5 cars in production, nice. Including the blue car that we have here in California. First, the U.S. client will get delivery later in June. So that car is coming, and that will be shown at the Quail later in August. We have a production time of between 12 and 15 months. And with the setup we have today, we can build one car. We can deliver 1 car per month.
Wow.
Roughly.
This is really cool. Well, and that production time is pretty cool. Now, it used to be people would say 12 to 15 months, but go try to order a new car today. That's how long it takes, sometimes longer, to get a car built because of supply chain issues. So this is cool. We're going to take a short break. Thank our sponsors again. When we come back, I want to learn a little bit more about you, Hans, and your passion for cars. So keep the seatbelts on, and we'll be right back. You listeners know that I'm a huge car care fanatic, and my friends at AutoGeek created their Wolfgang Deep Gloss Paint Sealant for perfectionists like you and me. Wolfgang Deep Gloss Paint Sealant is designed to provide long-lasting protection and a glossy, slick finish that, well, it's unmatched. The use of polymer technology ensures your paint is protected from environmental contaminants, those damaging UV rays, and lasts up to 3 months long. By providing the glossy look of carnauba wax with the longevity of a synthetic formula, Wolfgang Deep Gloss Paint Sealant is the best of both worlds. Go to autogeek.net to get yours for the best product selection on the internet today, along with their skilled technical support. Autogeek.net is where I go for all my detailing needs. That's autogeek.net. Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions, ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. Cars Yeah has teamed up with TechForce Foundation, one of our charities of choice, to help young people who love cars, problem solving, and working with their hands pursue careers as professional technicians. From auto, collision, and restoration techs to motorcycle boats, race cars, and aviation, TechForce covers the gamut of technician opportunities. Technical education and the skills trades matter, and we need qualified skilled technicians to keep our vehicles rolling. Learn how you can help to power the technical workforce at techforce.org today. So Hans, let's talk about a big challenge here. Could be related to the car you guys are building, the P1800, or could be related to something in your career. This is what we call the challenge question, but the whole thing about this is, what did it teach you to take forward in a positive way that was a wonderful learning lesson? Maybe not so fun at the time, though. So take it away.
Okay. Yeah, where to start? When you do things like the things that we do, there are always challenges, of course. And I think within the project with the P1800, I think the most difficult thing was to actually sort of get the concept right. What is it that we want to build? In the end, we found out that we put a wording on it, sort of the 60s only perfected. You were talking about that previously. Driving a car from the 60s can be a bit underwhelming. So how do we produce a car that is actually what you would want to drive if you think of the 60s, but not taking away all the good things of the 60s? So yeah, there have been a lot of different decisions to dial that car in. But it's hard to sort of. I mean, we work with a lot of Cyan Racing is a lot of engineers specializing in different areas, and to get all these people together, not working under one specific race regulation, but having everything open, every opportunity open. That means that you have to try a lot of different ways, really. So I'd say for this project, it has been to get it right. But I think we did. We managed. There has been a lot of blood, swearing, and tears. Well, not so many tears, perhaps, but
Yeah.
But in general, I think I've been sort of responsible for the brand, even though we changed the name. I've been responsible for the Polestar to Cyan brand for 12 years now. And I think if there is something that I would sort of feel that I made a couple of mistakes with, and I will try to avoid them in the rest of my life, that is sometimes you get an offer to cooperate with somebody to maybe get in a better position, financially perhaps or otherwise. But if you have that sense that this is not supporting the brand long term, just say no, just avoid it. And I've lended the brand to a couple of manufacturers, and that has been nightmares to get it right again. So yeah, make your own decisions.
Yeah, yeah. You made a really important comment there, and that is if it's not supporting the overall brand, just say no, because many things can divert us and distract our attention and move us on the wrong direction. And usually I think most of us know when we embark on something, is this really, even in life, you think about, okay, am I doing this? Is this good for my life moving forward? Or is this just a side road that's going to lead to some bad endings? And then I've got to go back to the main highway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Same thing.
I love it.
To be honest, to be yourself, to be correct in what you're doing, not trying to pretending something. And I think for me, it has been working with large manufacturers that have people all around the world. It's easy that they sort of tend to listen to what the outside say about your brand, but you need to stay with what really is the brand. So, you have this old saying that don't tell me you're funny, make me laugh. And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Continue with what you're doing and let the world decide if it's okay or not.
Absolutely. How many times have we seen major car manufacturers go way off brand and it ends up being a disaster, and then they end up having to come back around? And boy, that takes a long time, a lot of money, a lot of aggravation, and it destroys credibility with your consumers in a really bad way that can last forever. You know, I want to talk about a special vehicle in your life because I assume you've been around a lot of cool cars. We talked about this P1800. That would be the obvious answer to this question. So let's not go there. Let's park that car for a moment. I want to go back in time and talk about a car that's been very special to you.
So many. First car that comes to mind is my current rally car that I'm rallying in the Swedish National Championship, gravel rally. It's an old car. It's a BMW M3 from 1997.
Wow.
That's a car, when I grew up, I couldn't afford it. I wanted it, but now I have it, and I can push it to the limits in the forest of Sweden. So I think for me, that is, there are so many other cool cars all over the world, but a car that you really can drive as hard as you just dare. That one is my dream car, and I have it.
You know what's pretty cool about that? That's the E36 variant, right?
Yeah, 3.2 liter, 340 horsepower-ish.
Yeah.
Rear-wheel drive, gravel rally, snow rally, you know.
I had two of those cars, not rally cars, street cars, but I love those cars. In fact, that's the car that got me on the track with BMW Club driving days and then led me to vintage racing. And I love that car. And now they've really become collectible type items. And so I'm sure some people listening out there are going, oh my gosh, he's taking an E36 and racing it on gravel. How could he do that? But that's your history. That's your heritage, right?
To my defense, this car was actually, when it was 2 years old in 99, it was transferred into a racing car. Okay. So I haven't done that, what you're talking about.
Well,
I haven't taken, no. But yes, it's never, first time it saw snow, because when we talk about cars in Sweden, an M3 for 97 should never have been on snow, because it's a collectible car almost from the beginning. So we only drive them on summers. But this car, first time it saw snow was in a winter rally in northern Sweden in 2018. So, yeah. So it's a really, really nice. And we took it to the Arctic Circle for a rally in Finland this winter. Wow. 33 degrees Celsius below zero, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's extremely cold.
It's cold. It's very cold. Yeah. You know, my hat's off to you, because I love the fact when people take these old cars and don't treat them so precious. I tend to treat my cars way too precious. And as a result, I don't push them a little harder and enjoy them as much. So you're a good inspiration for me, Hans. I appreciate that. I'm going to crawl into your head a little bit here and be a car psychologist. If you were reincarnated or manifest as a vehicle, not what you want to be, but how you perceive yourself as a vehicle, what would Hans Bääth be, but more importantly, why?
I was thinking about this question because I got it in advance, and having been up and down the canyon roads around Malibu for the last week with a number of really inspiring drivers, motor journalists from the West Coast. It sounds like advertising, but as the P1800 behaves on those roads, the confidence gives the driver, the sort of willingness in the engine, the smile it creates in the face when the revs go up above 7,000. I mean, it's lightweight. It's not a lot of complicated filtering systems that can make anyone a good driver. It's actually, I think it's the P1800 that reflects me the most. It's an honest car, and you can push it very hard, but it's not overwhelming. I'd like to be the P1800.
Nice.
I'm born in the 60s.
Yeah.
And the car is born in the 60s. It's a little bit older than me, but we have this we came up with this slogan, if you want, the 60s only perfected. So I would like to be that P1800.
I like that. The 60s only perfected. That fits a lot of what's going on with a lot of these cars. I love it. Yeah. The 60s were an interesting time. I was a little boy, but certainly I was noticing at that point in my life, cars, building models. I lived in Southern California, so I was surrounded by a lot of friends whose dad had, gosh, I remember a friend of mine's dad got a Miura and another one got a Countach. And I mean, these guys were, you said these cars, the first 911s when they came out. I remember a friend's dad got the first 911. And it was a really wonderful time. On top of all the hot rods, of course, U.S. hot rods and muscle cars and all that. Very cool. Well, I like that answer. Nice job. So how about a great book that you'd like to share with our listeners? Is there a book you've enjoyed a lot or learned a lot from?
Yeah, I'm an academic, so been reading way too much. Actually, if you want to reflect on the development within the car industry, I think unfortunately I don't have the name of the author or the title, but the books I bought written by college professors in motor journalism at universities here in the US in the 60s, in the 70s, including that era with the rotary engine, discussing the anti-smog things that came that made the V8 here work lousy in the beginning of the 70s, and why that happened. Them talking about it is obvious that we will drive electrical vehicles in the cities and other engines on the open road. It was clear in the 70s for them, and I think we're getting there now. So unfortunately I don't have the titles, but I think if you go back in time and actually see, because I think we are in the transformation age right now for many reasons.
Oh, yes.
But this has been an ongoing process for so many years. So, I think that's studying that kind of literature from that time. It's very thoughtful.
So this begs a question, looking into the future, the crystal ball. Will we see the Volvo 1800 Cyan as an EV?
If I got $1 for each time I got that question, I would be rich.
Well, of course, but it's a pretty obvious question given this renaissance that the industry is going through right now. So, I mean, I've seen them done a few. Remember back in 2018, I think Jaguar was at the Quail with a XKE that was electric, and I've had lots of people on the show that are developing battery technology, EVs of all sorts of kinds. So I'm going to answer that question for you. I think so.
Yeah, I'm actually, when we're sitting here, if the P1800 gets electric or not, I'm not sure. It can absolutely happen. And what's going on back home in Sweden is interesting as well. When we sold Polestar to Volvo, I left the company for a couple of years. I was heading the Swedish Touring Car Championship for a while, and I joined Cupra, which is a Volkswagen Group brand. And we together developed an electric version of the race car that we raced in the series. And within, I think, 2 days from now, and it's going to be after when this podcast is published, STCC has launched that in 2023, STCC will be the first national electric racing series in the world. And that is not boring cars. That's 550 horsepower rear-wheel drive cars. So, and I see this transformation going on. It's obvious when you're here in LA queuing.
Yeah. A lot of that on the freeways there. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously there will be a future for electric cars and other non-fossil fuel transportation. But Christian Koenigsegg, another very interesting Swede, 10 years ago, I was listening to him, and he said that he had bought the first Tesla, the first S model in Sweden, one of the first, and he compared that to his M5, V10 M5, and he said that the Tesla is better in everything.
Ouch. Yeah.
So for him, it was obvious that this is the way he's going to commute in the future. But he also said that his flame-throwing Koenigsegg cars would have a role in the society, and he compared with the analog watches that we saw in the 80s when the digital clock came,
Uh-huh.
that there will be no need for the Swiss mechanical watches. But today they are on your arm as a piece of something to enjoy.
Yes.
And that's going to be exactly the same thing with our V8s, our straight sixes, turbo fours. If we fuel them with oil or whatever, it doesn't matter. But sort of, it's like with the horses.
Yes.
Before they were before the wagon, now they're in the wagon. And I think we're going to enjoy our fossil fuel engines or
I think you're right.
combustion engines forever. So, but obviously, if we want to be relevant in the future, we need to understand that we need to make really, really cool racing also with electrical vehicles. Otherwise, the manufacturers will not see us as relevant. So.
I think you're right. Yeah. So I'm going to enable you to go on what I call the ultimate ride. I'm going to provide you with any vehicle in the world that you'd like, Hans. You can be driving anywhere you'd like, and you could be with anybody you'd like, including somebody who perhaps has passed. What's the ultimate drive look like for you?
That'll be the super sweet Ronnie Peterson.
Yeah.
The greatest name. There are many other great names. You have Marcus Ericsson that won the Indy 500 a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, that's cool. But Ronnie Peterson was the great guy when I grew up. Passed away September 11, 1978, at Monza in the Lotus.
Yeah.
He was Mr. Oversteer. He was treating cars like nobody else. And I would like to go with him in a Volvo 240 as we rally them in Sweden today. 300 horsepower, very well-sorted suspension. It sounds crazy if you're here, you can't rally a 240, but that's what we do. 240s and 740s. I do the M3 just because I don't know why, but it should be a Volvo, but that's how we do it. So then we have the question about the road.
Yeah.
But I think it should be perhaps here, perhaps one of those canyon roads with Ronnie Peterson in a 240.
I like that. Very cool. Very cool. You've taken us on a super fun ride, and I really, really appreciate you taking time out of a super busy schedule as you have brought this beautiful car here to the West Coast, Los Angeles area, presenting it to press and taking it out and enjoying it. I cannot wait to see it when I'm on the lawn at the Quail this summer. Before I let you go, though, and by the way, are you going to be at the Quail with the car? Will you be there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, cool.
Together with some of my colleagues and engineers and
good.
We want to be there.
Well, good. Well, I will be there too, so we'll get to say hello again. Before I let you go, could you share maybe some final words of inspiration or wisdom with our listeners?
I think that John F. Kennedy said something once that I try to think of every day, and that is that things do not happen. They are made to happen by guys like you and me. The world is not consistent. The world is, you can make things happen.
Yes.
But you can't wait for them to happen.
I love it. Perfect. I'm going to add to that great quote you told us earlier. The 60s only perfected Cyan and their P1800. Yeah, these guys are perfecting the 60s. How can people learn more about this wonderful vehicle?
Just to log on to cyancars.com or follow us at Cyan Cars Official at Instagram.
Absolutely. I'll put links to all those on Hans' show notes page. I want to do a big shout out to Greg Emerson at ID Agency for getting Hans and I together today. Greg's great. He's brought me some wonderful guests. So Greg, hats off to you. Hans, thanks for being so generous today with your time and expertise, and mostly for you and your team to bring this spectacular car. It's got a big, big smile on my face. Until you and I talk again, I usually say I'll see you down the road, but I'll see you at the Quail.
See you at the Quail, Mark, and thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to talk to you, and let's see what the future brings, or what we bring to the future.
There you go. Nicely said. Absolutely. This was fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.